Welcome to the Honest Report. For decades, the world seemed to have one clear center of power. The United States had enormous economic influence. The dollar dominated global finance, and American alliances stretched across much of the world. But today, that picture is becoming much more complicated. China has become a major economic and technological power. India is expanding its global influence. Russia remains an important military and energy power. Meanwhile, countries across Asia, Africa, the Middle East, and Latin America are demanding a greater voice in global affairs. So the question is no longer simply, who is the world's superpower? The bigger question is, are we entering a completely new world order, and who will shape it? After the Cold War ended, the United States emerged as the world's most powerful country. American military alliances, financial institutions, technology companies, and the global role of the dollar gave Washington extraordinary influence. But history rarely stays still. China's economic rise has changed the balance of power. India has become increasingly important in global trade and diplomacy. European countries are trying to strengthen their strategic independence. And many emerging economies are no longer interested in choosing one side. Instead, they want to work with different powers depending on their own interests. This is one reason analysts increasingly talk about a multipolar world, a world where power is spread across several major players rather than controlled by one dominant country. And that shift could define the next century. Let's start with the United States. Despite all the talk about American decline, the U.S. remains an extraordinary global power. It has one of the world's largest economies, a huge military network, leading universities, powerful technology companies, and deep financial influence. The US dollar also remains central to international finance. But Washington faces new challenges. China is competing in advanced technology and manufacturing. Other countries are trying to reduce their dependence on Western systems. And geopolitical conflicts are putting pressure on America's alliances. The important point is this: America may not be disappearing from the global stage. Instead, it may be entering a world where maintaining leadership requires more competition, more negotiation, and more cooperation. The United States is still a superpower, but it is no longer operating in the same international environment it dominated after the Cold War. China's transformation over the last few decades is one of the biggest stories in modern history. It has become a manufacturing powerhouse and a major trading partner for countries around the world. China is also investing heavily in artificial intelligence, electric vehicles, semiconductors, renewable energy, and other strategic technologies. Beijing wants greater influence over international institutions, trade routes, technology standards, and regional security. The competition between Washington and Beijing is therefore about much more than tariffs or trade. It is about who will have greater influence over the technologies, industries, and economic systems of the future. But China also faces serious challenges, including demographic pressure, economic difficulties, and tensions with other countries. China is rising, but how far it rises will depend on how successfully it handles these challenges. There is another major story that often receives less attention: the rise of the Global South. Countries such as India, Brazil, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, and others are becoming increasingly important in global politics and economics. India is especially interesting. It maintains relationships with the United States and Europe, while also cooperating with Russia and participating in groups such as BRICS. This strategy gives India room to pursue its own interests, and that may become increasingly common. Many countries don't want a world where they have to choose between Washington and Beijing. They want flexibility. They want investment, technology, energy security, and access to markets from multiple partners. That means the future world order may not simply be America versus China. It could be a much more complicated competition, involving dozens of influential countries. BRICS has also become part of the conversation about the changing global order. Supporters argue that emerging economies need greater representation in international institutions. They also want more alternatives in trade and finance. But there is an important distinction. BRICS is not automatically a replacement for the existing global financial system. Its members have different political systems, economic priorities, and strategic interests. So predicting the immediate collapse of the dollar or the Western financial system would be an exaggeration. The more realistic question is whether the world is gradually developing more alternatives, more currencies, more trade routes, more financial partnerships, more economic centers. If that continues, the global economy could become less centralized than it has been in the past. And even a gradual change could have enormous consequences. One of the biggest questions surrounding the New World Order is the future of the US dollar. For decades, the dollar has played a central role in international trade, banking, and reserves. Some countries are trying to increase the use of their own currencies in international transactions. Others are exploring alternative payment systems. But there is a major difference between reducing dependence on the dollar and replacing the dollar. The dollar still benefits from America's enormous financial markets and the depth of its institutions. So a sudden collapse of dollar dominance is far from certain. Instead, we may see something more gradual, a world where the dollar remains extremely important, but where other currencies and payment systems gain a larger role. And if that happens, financial power could become more distributed. Now comes perhaps the most important factor of all, artificial intelligence. In previous centuries, global power was heavily connected to land, armies, factories, and natural resources. Today, computing power, data, chips, and AI talent are becoming strategic assets. Countries that lead in AI could gain enormous advantages in medicine, manufacturing, defense, finance, transportation, and scientific research. That's why the competition over advanced chips and AI technology has become so important. The next generation of global power may not be decided only by how many tanks a country has. It may also depend on who can build the most advanced technologies and who controls the infrastructure behind them. This means companies, researchers, and engineers could become just as important to global competition as traditional political institutions. So, after everything we've discussed, who will control the future? The honest answer is probably nobody alone. America remains powerful. China is rising. India is becoming more influential. Europe remains an enormous economic bloc. Russia retains significant military and energy influence. And the global south is demanding a greater role. At the same time, technology companies, financial institutions, and international organizations are becoming increasingly important. The future may therefore belong to countries that can adapt rather than simply dominate. Countries that can build strong economies, secure technology, maintain alliances, and respond quickly to global crises may have the greatest influence. The New World Order may not have one king. It may have several centers of power competing and cooperating at the same time. The biggest mistake would be to assume that the future has already been decided. The global balance of power is changing, but exactly where it will end up remains uncertain. Will the United States maintain its leadership? Will China become the dominant economic and technological power? Will India emerge as a third major center of influence? Will the global south reshape international institutions? Or will the world simply become more fragmented and multipolar? Perhaps the most realistic answer is that all of these forces will exist at the same time. The old global order is under pressure, and the next one is still being written. And the countries that understand this transformation early may have the biggest influence on what comes next. This is The Honest Report. If you found this analysis informative, subscribe to The Honest Report and stay with us for more fact-based stories about the world, business, technology, and global power. Thanks for watching.